want to talk about some things I've been thinking about really, and one of them is defending 3x1. And I think, it's important to have kind of a multiple toolbox as far as how you want to defend 3x1. And the biggest thing, I'm not going to talk about like conventional 3x1. I'm going to talk more about, looking at game planning it, and then maybe some change ups, or, what I like to say is change the math as far as 3x1 goes. I put my contact information down here. I just really like talking football, obviously. This isn't a recruiting ploy. We're not recruiting anybody up there, obviously. Just like talking ball. So if you guys have any questions that come up, feel free to shoot me a text or follow me on Twitter or whatever. But, I'm going to kind of go all over the place here early, and then I'm going to try and land the plane for us. So just bear with me. If you got any questions, just holler them out. But, this isn't everything I look at in 3x1, but these are the obvious issues you got to establish. So the first thing I like to look at are, what are the route concepts based on underflow or load flow? So when I say underflow, I'm talking about 3x2 distribution. Backs weak to the X, 3 receivers, right? And then load flow being your 4 strong route concepts. To us, those are typically, 2 different worlds, and we want to have a plan accordingly. And then some people, it's no different, right? They may be moving the back based on protection, and he's not factored into the route concept. But that's a starting point for me that I like to look at. And then the next thing we go to is, do the receivers change in their alignments in 3x1? So the example is, in spread football today, a lot of people are putting the tight end at 1 because you see so much, I call it mini, but where you lock 1 with the corner and you play a palms read on 2 and 3, and they feel like they can waste your best cover guy with maybe one of their worst receivers, right? So we want to see what's the distribution of the actual people in 3x1. Where do they put them? Into the routes change when they move them. And then obviously, this is the age-old question, how good is their X? Can we go one-on-one with them? Do we need to make considerations to cover that guy? The other thing I like to look at is who gets the ball in 3x1. We'll talk about that more, but, how many targets does the Z actually have, the field number 1, How does he factor into the scheme? Are they all in breaking? Can they get the ball to him? That can determine what you want to play over there to the 3 receivers. And then the last thing is 3x1 with the tight end in the C area. That's why I call it. That's the tight end attached to the line of scrimmage or in an off-the-ball position. And the thing we're looking for there is, does he go vertical now? And if he does go vertical now from the C area, how good is he? And that's going to determine how we need to play some of these concepts moving forward. So those are some of the questions. This is an example of how I like to look at it. This is an old game plan from 2018 against a team in our conference, but I said earlier, I like to look at just where the ball goes in 3x1. So this kind of has it laid out pretty clear that their boundary X receiver had 4 targets out of 20 attempts at this point in the season, and then these were the route concepts he was targeted on, right? So you get an idea in one visual where the ball is going. Obviously, this is done pretty well. We have a GA do this, but I've done it by hand at other places where we didn't have the resources. But I like to visually be able to see where the ball goes and be able to give it to our players as we move forward. So that's one example of what we're looking at there. You can see over here the Z had 1 target and 20 passes, right? So is he a viable target? Probably not. And then from there, we like to look at what are the actual route concepts they run, out of everything, but we're talking specifically 3x1. And I feel like the route concepts can get pretty watered down, right? Everyone has conversions to their route concepts. They have things they like. What we try and do is group them into buckets, So we talk about strong area attack. Strong area attacks either a horizontal or vertical stretch of the strong flat defender. That could be stick, it could be curl flat, it could be smash, but that's strong area attack. And then we talk about weak area attack being the exact same thing. It's a horizontal or vertical stretch of the weak flat defender. Could be the boundary corner and a 2-deep concept, the boundary curl flat player and 3-deep, what have you. And then middle area attack is the same thing, but in the middle of the field over the relate to 3 player, the strong hook player, whoever it may be. So there's a lot of route concepts that fit in those categories. All right, but what we're doing is we're just trying to group them, all right, to try and get a feeling for where they're going to go with the ball, and then really looking at it where the ball goes based on what they're seeing, which we'll talk about here more in a second. Then from there, we have 3-man route concepts. So outside vertical stretch is a 3-level stretch, flood on the outside third of the field, right? Some sort of flood concept where they're trying to get 3 guys in a row. A middle vertical stretch is the same idea over the middle of the field. Your typical NCAA route, shallow dig post. but there's a bunch of ways people create it now. So we group those in a bucket. And then high horizontal stretch is your typical vertical read where they're trying to, horizontally stretch the post safety or the half field safety with a bender and a vertical or two seams, what have you. And then, the other thing I like to look at is what kind of reads is it for the quarterback? Pick a side. That's 2x2. They got their one high answer over here and their two high answer over there. And then swipe reads, I think that's the most common read in football right now. It's the air raid 95 concept where everything kind of progresses back into the quarterback's vision. All right. So we kind of try and break it all down like that. And once we look at that, now we just need to talk about the math of 3x1. This is really what you got. You can play 3/2 to the X, which means you're 4/3 to the three receiver side. All right. And then, this is what I'm talking about, kind of tying it all together. Typically, when you see 4/3 coverage, what do you get? A lot of strong area attacks. That's where you get your sticks, your curl flats, what have you, to the three receiver side, right? You're not going to get as much boundary action because the weak safety's over there. And then, your other option is to play 5/3. You're playing some sort of poach defense, all right? Or maybe it's buzz where you're rolling to 3 deep and rotating to the third receiver. But now you're over 2/2 weak, so now you're going to get a bunch of your weak area attacks, right? You're going to get your isolation game to the X. And to me, it's knowing what causes the quarterback to go that way or the coordinator is based on the math of 3x1. Now, kind of what I'm going to talk to you about moving forward is how do you change that math? How do you show 4/3 but get to 5/3 or vice versa? How do you show 2/2 to the boundary but get to 3/2, all right, and try and steal it down? I think that's where the game's won. All right, and that kind of leads me to this quote, always avoid always and never, right? So what does that mean? That means I don't always want to be a 4/3 team to the three receiver side because you know what you're going to get and it's going to be hard to stop it, right? And then don't live in that world where you never protect the boundary corner or you never protect the field corner. So to me as a coordinator, that's a big part of it. Always avoid, always and never. So let's just get to the change in the math part of it. Make the same things look different and different things look the same. To me, the only advantage you have on defense in football nowadays is to be multiple. All right. If they know where the checkers are, I think you're going to have a hard time. You know what I'm saying? So we want to make the same things look different and we want to make different things look the same. So we're multiple and we can change the picture on the snap. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how people are doing that. So here's the first one. This is a couple of years ago in the conference championship game against App State. Basically what we thought is if you gave this quarterback and coordinator any variation of 2/2 into the boundary, the ball was going here, right? So what we were trying to do is give the presentation of man free with the weak safety, right, rotating to the middle of the field, all right? We were trying to trigger the quarterback to go that way, all right? And, I think it's pretty typical that this weak safety is kind of like Waldo for everybody. They're trying to find where he's at, and that's going to tell you what the math is. All right, so we're trying to show a super rotation, and then what we're going to end up doing is actually roll to playing a field trap, and then we're going to invert and play inverted half with the corner and the outside linebacker, whoever this is for you, defensive end, right? So what we did is we changed the math. Instead of this being 3/2 or 2/2, this becomes 3/2 with these three, but we're telling the quarterback to work that way. That's what I'm talking about as far as changing the math. That's also what I'm talking about, making the same things look different, right? So, and different things look the same. We're making man free look and actually playing to trap. And I think it's important to be able to have these variables. Now, you obviously don't have to do it all the time, but it's going to make your man free better when they have to think, could this be a trap, right? So let's just look at the clip of it. So like I said, we're trying to show, man free. We actually get a look over. All right, trying to show it like field rotation, like we're playing some sort of 5/3 to the field. And now we're actually going to go ahead and play trap to the boundary. And we get the X double the unconventional way. The ball actually goes there. Catching the ball is tough, I guess. But, you can kind of see the idea of changing the math, right? We want to show them one thing and give them something else on the snap of the football, right? So that's one example of it. Moving forward, here's another way that we've gone about doing it. So, obviously we're a traditional team where we poach this boundary safety to number 3 quite a bit. And this is one-on-one, right? And I feel like if I was an offensive coordinator, that's what you want to see, right? You can throw to your guy into the boundary. So we want to give that same appearance and, again, have a way to be able to relieve this corner where he can bail and get somebody underneath the X, right? So this is just another way we do it, where we give the poach appearance, but we're actually going to play 3 weak out of an 8-man drop. So when I say 3 weak, we're playing cover 3 tools to the field. The weak safety is the weak hook defender. So for all your cover 3 up and over issues, the weak safety is responsible for that. And now we're able to drop the boundary end under the X to be able to protect the boundary corner. So again, we're trying to show one thing, all right, trying to show 5 over the 3 to the field and play another. So let's look at how this clip plays out. Now you'll actually see, this is another way we use it. This is a huddle call of a double A gap pressure that would kill versus 3-by-1. So you can see him get out of there. They check the concept. All right, our weak safety is giving demeanor like he's working to 3, which he is, which in my mind should tell this guy to come to the boundary. We end up getting the boundary end under the X with the corner on top. And with a 3-man rush, in my opinion, because we changed the math and we do have a really good player up there to the field, we're able to get a sack with a 3-man rush because the quarterback has to hold the football, all right? And like I said, you're not doing this all the time, but I think you have to have some ways in your package to be able to change the picture on them post-snap and get them to hold the ball to create a sack. Like I said, I feel like this is the only way in today's game to have an advantage defensively, right? You got to be multiple. All right, so simulated pressure here. Like a lot of people think simulated pressures are great to attack the quarterback, which they certainly are. I really like them, again, to change the math. So right here, you're basically seeing number 3 uncovered, which the people I talk to offensively would automatically assume you're going to get some sort of buzz or man rotation. And what we're going to do actually is we're going to drop a first-level defender from the line of scrimmage to become the strong hook defender to get our numbers back, and we're going to send pressure opposite. So this is going to be a boundary corner simulated pressure on a switch path, and we're going to drop that field defensive end to become the strong hook player. Again, I think changing the math so the free safety can stay in the post. We're able to get pressure on the quarterback. We trick the protection. We don't land it on him, unfortunately. But we got it covered up pretty good. The quarterback has to hold the ball. And I think it's just another example of changing the math in 3-by-1 to try and get what you want. So that's kind of what I had, for you. Hopefully that made a little sense. I know I had a 15-minute time slot. If anyone had any questions that came up or anything else, feel free to let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. No questions in the chat right now, but guys, feel free to reach out to Coach if you have them or throw them in the chat. So appreciate you coming on, Coach. Good stuff.
Yeah.